Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of the VSI Sporting Directors podcast with our friends at Omni Sports. I'm delighted to say we're crossing the Atlantic today to talk to somebody who's been working with the MLS for the last 27 years. 6 clubs as a player, 79 caps with the US and 3 goals. One stint as an assistant coach with the club, technical director formerly with the Seattle Sounders, and now the chief soccer officer of Inter Miami. It's a delight to welcome Chris Henderson. Chris, lovely to see you. The sun is shining in Manchester, but I think it's probably shining a bit warmer in Miami.
Thanks for having me, James. It's great to be here. Yeah, it is a bit warmer. It's actually cooler today than it had been, but it's hard to beat the weather here this time of year.
I imagine at this stage of the year, usually, although you had a great deal of success at Seattle, it's about taking a bit of a breather, but suddenly you're at the helm of the club that everyone in the world wants to talk about, so you don't get a breather, do you?
Usually our breather here for our group that's behind the scenes is right after roster compliance and the team gets ready for the season. It really gets busy this time of year. We're trying to work towards next year. There's drafts that come up. And most of it is just player conversations, trades and acquisitions from outside the league.
And I guess there's also an argument saying you wouldn't like a breather because you'd rather be in the playoffs.
Yeah, we definitely like to be playing. There's 4 teams left now. I think we had such a good summer run with the Leagues Cup, and I think emotionally and physically it took its toll on the group.
Yeah, I mean, the positive from that is you have now a bunch of winners, people who've won something and have the experience of that. But as you say, the kind of fatigue of aiming for something and getting it, it's very hard to continue that on for a season, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think with we're a really young club, so sometimes winning your first trophy is the hardest thing to get over. So that's a really important objective for us. And it also qualified us for the CONCACAF Champions League. So that's a big one with the route to the club FIFA Club World Cup. So we look at that. We look at the amount of competitions we'll have next year. So it's going to be really exciting next year because we'll have many opportunities to win.
Is this the busiest you've been kind of as a sporting director or a chief soccer officer, bearing in mind you've got so much to plot? You've got an academy to pilot. You've got obviously the story that everyone wants to talk about in Lionel Messi, but you've also got already a congested fixture campaign and a desire to see Inter Miami all around the world in your pre-season.
It's a good question, James. I think the first 2 years we had some sanctions to deal with at our club, which affected our salary cap. We had less money. So those years were really difficult trying to find new players who could fit in a lower budget. And you're looking all over the world for the best player in that position at a budget number. So you're limited in some of the choices you could make. So some of the previous years, we had turnover before last year of 19 players, which is, about more than double what I dealt with in Seattle. So I just think this time of year we're prepared. Our group is prepared for the amount of work we have, and it's kind of a race between now and February 21st or whenever roster compliance comes before our first game.
I guess one of the positives of that whole experience of having it kind of hands tied a little bit when it came to kind of sanctions is that you are looking to the future, you're looking to young players and probably their development has benefited because of it.
Yeah, you had mentioned the academy system. So our academy is 4 years old. We have our first group of young players who have kind of come through and made it to the first team now. And it's a good crop of players. And we feel confident about, our U15 team, some of our U17s that look like they could project to come into the first team. But it's really hard to have teenage players and try and predict which ones are going to make it through. But we're putting the energy in, the IDPs for the kids, doing everything we can and giving them all the tools to one, be in the culture of our club, understand the club, and hopefully have a clear pathway through our second team in MLS Next Pro to be able to show themselves that they're ready for Tata Martino and his staff to take on into the first team.
And yet with that small window of 4 years, you've had instances this year where you had 6 of your 11 homegrown and you've had a homegrown goal scorer. I'm right with that, aren't I?
Yeah. Like I said, we had a game where 6 of the 11 were starting that were academy products. So we're proud of that, but we are also in a results business. So sometimes those young kids, you have to be patient with them. They're going to make mistakes in games, and we also need to win games. So there's that balance of how we can have our veteran players who have a ton of experience, how they can share the knowledge and bring these players along in training, and then sprinkle some in the games to help them, continue to grow and mature.
We'll talk about Leo Messi a little bit later, but you've got a kind of trident of three veteran players, as you call them, in Messi, Busquets, and Alba. How have they engaged and incorporated themselves into the club to the benefit of those academy players you just talked about?
Yeah, I've been in this league a really long time, and I've seen designated players come through and get signed at clubs, and some can have an amazing impact, and they're bought into everything. The lifestyle, the league, growing, developing, spending time with young players, working with the coaching staff and sharing knowledge. That's what we have with these three. And it's kind of been a dream start for our DPs. They're super invested. You can see the joy and happiness they have on a daily basis of just living in South Florida, enjoying their families, settling in and enjoying maybe a little bit more peace, because they can go about their lives a little bit less distracted from coming from Spain, and obviously Leo Messi coming from PSG last year. So they really have just adapted right away, and they came in right at the beginning of Leagues Cup, and we ended up winning that tournament. And I think having games that were meaningful games every single, it's a tournament. So I think that was really important for them to realize, like, hey, I have to have an impact on this game. And the way they come into the training center and train, and the effort they put in, the energy they put in, they're super professional. So yeah, as a sporting director, I'm thrilled. Tata and his staff are thrilled, and I have to credit our owners for their commitment and persistence in knowing this was going to come true, to sign these players and bring them here in the summer window. We did everything we could to clear the salary cap, to make sure that we had the space available, the money available, and it was worth the wait.
And I guess you can't put a price on people being hungry at that age, having achieved what they've achieved, and also the good habits for those young players to watch as well.
Yeah, I mean, I played until I was 36 in Major League Soccer, and it's pretty tough in your mid-30s to do it day in and day out. And I think they have years of just consistency at a certain level that it's the off season now, and they're in every day training. They don't want to switch off and have to restart again. So I think the way they take care of their bodies, many of the things they've shared with us, that we're adding to the club now just to support them in nutrition, supporting our chef, things we're doing with blood markers, the medical and performance team, everything surrounding them to help them be at maximum every day, is helping improve our club.
I read an interview with you where you reflected on your career and said that you were persistent. You've used the word already. Is that your greatest quality as a sporting director as well?
I think, yeah, it's in my DNA. I've just been, I felt like as a player, I was technical. I was a good one-on-one dribbler, a really good crosser.
You had 79 caps for your country. That's more than persistence.
Yeah, and I think it's something that I was, had a belief and a confidence in, that I was super fit going into games, and I knew that if I was going to play 90 minutes, that there'd be 15, 20 minutes where maybe I've worn down the guy, and I have some joy on the dribble and can get some good crosses in, create scoring chances for my team. And I feel like I've taken that into my professional life, as in management, that, you have to put in the work every day. You have to work smart and surround yourselves, just like when I was on a team, to help my teammates. And you were a better player when you had better players around you. And I feel it's the same thing in the front office. The more talent you can have, the more I can support them as a leader to, hey, you're the expert in this. That's why I hired you. Run with it, and we'll work together and guide each other in the vision we have for the club, and really sticking with the values that we've created here. And I feel like we have a whole building full of people who understand where we're going.
And because of that kind of 0 to 60 you've got to have as a club, bearing in mind you've not been in existence for very long, is a quicker process, I think, because of the ability of the people around you, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think, as I said, the commitment from the Moss brothers, from David Beckham, the commitment to support the club in not only player acquisitions, but supporting our academy, supporting the second team. The facilities we have here is the best in the league. And I would say it competes with top facilities in the world. So I think we have all the support behind us. And then it's about trying to improve our club every day to maximize the coaches and the players and what they need to do. And we all understand why we're here. But at the same time, we want to have fun while we do it. Because otherwise, why come in every day if you're not going to enjoy what you do? And it makes all the work more rewarding and satisfying when you have a good culture and atmosphere.
I almost think that the pressure you've got is unique simply because of the situation of the players involved. But how much did the experience at Seattle teach you how to deal with that pressure of expectation? Because you created that yourselves, 12 seasons in a row, seven in the playoffs, 7 major trophies. It was success upon success upon success, which, as I said, breeds expectation, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like Seattle's a big club and one of the biggest clubs in our league. The stadium was NFL stadium. We got great crowds. It would sell out year after year. And the team had been around since 1974. So it had a long history in the city of Seattle, and it's where I was born and grew up. So it was my hometown club. So there was a lot of people within the organization who had been with the organization a really long time. So I think it helped as players came in. I didn't feel like any player was bigger than the club, and we had a good tradition, and we were lucky to get the right acquisitions to have success right away, because it's very hard at the start of a franchise. It's when you really they were it was reborn in 2009. And it was important for us to have success early. And I think winning the US Open Cup in the first year put us into CONCACAF Champions League and kind of set the stage that, oh, this is a big club. And at the same time, we were partners with the Seattle Seahawks NFL team. So in the community, we were already at a really high level. And people realized, oh, this Major League Soccer is a big deal here. So I think coming down to Inter Miami, we were kind of reinventing again. I had come in, I was the second sporting director to come into the club. I spent a lot of time putting a lot of the processes that we had already put in place in Seattle. I started to put in place here. We needed to start a bunch of different departments to support the first team and the academy. So hired an academy director. We started data analytics. We got a recruitment team of people and scouts globally. So it took a good year and a half to get the foundation built. And now we're building off those processes.
And how important is that process, in getting it right? Is it still feeling as though it's new in terms of the role? Because I know the role, I think, has been established since 2001. I think the first sporting director was DC United. Is it still growing, or has it got kind of, this is what it is on the can and this is what we do? Or is that reflected again by the personality that we talked about, or the club and its expectations?
Yeah, every club runs the front office in different ways. I'm the chief soccer officer, sporting director here. I started as technical director, became sporting director in Seattle. Some clubs have a general manager who does the same thing that I do. So the titles change from club to club. And I think the responsibilities and duties are different from club to club. You have someone who's running compliance and player personnel, kind of from the second team down. You have someone who's in charge of all of soccer operations. You have someone who's in charge of recruitment and loans and transfers. So putting a team together looks different really from every club in the league. There's some clubs that spend more money in their backroom staff. Some spend more money in data analytics and want to go that route. But and then there's other clubs that just are running thinner than maybe we are here or some of the other big clubs in the league. And I think there isn't one formula that I think works and brings success. I think we've seen many champions in the league, and teams that are successful and doing it in different ways. And, we often look around the world. What are the best practices of the biggest clubs in the world? We look in the Premier League, we look in the Bundesliga, La Liga. I try and look what is working for our market here. We have a market of many South Americans here, and it's a blend. It's an international city. So you try and look at markets that, hey, what are they doing in this market that might translate into South Florida?
Is it a frustration then that you kind of live and die in the media on the back of recruitment when your brief is so much bigger than that? Or is that just the nature of things?
It is the nature of things. It's all about results, and you need to bring in the right players, but also it's about keeping the players that you have healthy and eligible for as many games as possible. You have a few injuries to your designated players or your top players on your team. In our league, you're in trouble. You can't just go push them out and replace them because their budget's sitting on your cap. And to move an injured player is very difficult. So there's a lot of things within the single entity salary cap system that you have to get your recruitment right. And I've seen great sporting directors, great general managers in our league that are doing a very good job with their clubs, but for one reason or another, it's an off season or two, and you're moving on to another job, another club. So we all realize that and the pressure that goes along with it. But I think that's what keeps you sharp. I think that's what drives many of us to come in every day and try and be the best in what we do.
Was one of the secrets at Seattle and the success you had there in terms of recruitment that you looked more than just around Seattle and the MLS, that you look further abroad? You mentioned the Bundesliga. You played in Bundesliga 2 with Frankfurt, so you had an experience of that already. But is that one of the things you've kind of duplicated at Inter as well?
I brought a lot of the connections that I had in Seattle. I brought them here with me. And in the early years, there wasn't a lot of clubs that had global scouts. I think the evolution of how you support your teams, the financial backing with new owners that have come into the league that are really ambitious and want to be global clubs, they're realizing how you need to support the team. And so we're fortunate here with the support we have. But I do think, you need to look, if you want to be a global club and compete to try and win, our CONCACAF Champions League. You need to be able to look at different markets. And as I said, you have price points in your salary cap system, and you have to look all over the world for the best player who fits the player profiles, fits the way you want to be in your market, someone who will come to your market and adjust easily, whether themselves or with their family. Those are important things that you sometimes can't predict when you're interviewing a player and you're scouting them. You don't know how they're going to be outside their market. So I try and rely on that, even though it was decades ago that I played in Europe. I try and rely on that. I have connections still of players that I played with that live in different parts of the world, and I use those.
And you could almost played in the Premier League, or certainly in England with Nottingham Forest. That was pretty close, wasn't it?
I did, in the late 90s. I think it was maybe 1998. One of my former coaches from Major League Soccer was an assistant coach at Nottingham Forest at the time, and he was pushing, and they had come to a complete agreement on salary and terms and everything, and I just was not able to get a work permit. I think at the time I had 60 some caps for the US, but it wasn't enough to get a work permit. So it is one of those that I wish I could have tried as a winger to see how I would have done.
I mean, you're very humble about that, but I mean, you missed out on 2 World Cups, and I think you play in one of those, maybe the rest is history and you get to play in England.
Yeah, you're right, because it was about the same time. And those for me were huge growth experiences. Being in the 1990 World Cup as the youngest player, one of the youngest players. I think me and Thomas Brolin were the 2 youngest. And then just missing out 5 days before the 94 World Cup and not making that roster. And it was in our home country. It was devastating as a player. And really, I had to kind of reinvent myself and start over. Getting back into the national team leading up to the 1998 World Cup in France and going all the way till a few months before and getting, released off that roster again. But I credit those experiences. I wouldn't be who I am and where I am today, I believe, if I didn't go through those. And I'm really proud of my international career. Played in Copa America, played in Confederations Cup, some other big tournaments. But as a player, you think the World Cup is what you want to be in. You want to be part of that roster. But many of that comes down to timing and form at that moment, and health. So, yeah, great memories though.
I sometimes think as adults and even as parents, we talk about resilience and having those qualities within our children. And yet in the back of our mind, those resilient moments when we needed that resilience are still what-if moments as well, though, aren't they?
They are. And, I was really lucky to have the support of my mom and dad, and a good family foundation and values. And I think about that. I have 5 kids, and I think about my kids as they grow. And I realize they have to go through these pains and experiences on their own. And you have to just know that you're there, no matter what age they are. It's a learning experience. It's their path, their journey. And you always have to be there and support. But as a parent, I feel like I can't interfere too much because they're going to become who they are through the experiences they have.
So would Chris Henderson, the player, the youngster, have thought of a sporting director as someone that helps or someone that hinders, or wouldn't be worried because they were worried about their career and being a player?
Yeah, I would say, as a leader here, you have to help. You have to be, always, I would say, consistent in kind of the emotions, because it's a roller coaster. It's up and down every week on results. And the building goes on the results of the teams. After a loss, it's quiet here. But there needs to be a consistent vision, where we're going, what we're working towards, and to make sure we're not too high and we're not too low. And I think that it helps bring consistency and focus in the group. And I try and be supportive in all the departments. Whatever Tata Martino needs as a coaching staff, I let him know we have a group here to support you. What do you need? I often ask, is there something you need? And the same thing with our players. I think it's important to touch with our players, because I've seen it as a player myself. Your confidence can go up and down. And sometimes it's as small as the coach didn't even say hello to me today, like things like that. And the coach is managing, 35 players, and, he may not even think of it. And I think it's important to have those points where you have moments with players to let them know, like, hey, how's it going? How's life at home? How's the family? What's happening on the field? Like, how are you feeling? I think just having people in the organization and in the team who are valued for what they bring every day.
You can see how much it benefited you in the role, having been a player, because you can see through those eyes. You coached, I think, for a season as assistant coach at Kansas. Does that give you another kind of string to your bow when it comes to doing your job as sporting director, of knowing what the coach is thinking or how they're thinking?
I felt the years as an assistant coach were really important in this job. And it was getting your coaching license, going through all the steps to become a professional coach, I think was really important. While I was in Seattle, I was in school getting advanced degrees for 6 years while I was the sporting director. So I think all of those, and being well-rounded and understanding what goes into each part of the club, I think it's been super valuable. I also think that, things, being flexible and being able to adapt to change, because things in a club are changing. At the end of every year, I'm like, this is the last time this group will ever be together, because there's always changes. And you have to remind people to enjoy what you're doing, because it's the last time this group will be together. And let's maximize it in the short time we have working together.
You're very visible as a sporting director or a chief soccer officer. Is that because you enjoy doing it, or is that what the MLS demands? Because certainly in this country, sporting directors can kind of give and take on that. They can choose if they want to be a public-facing person or if they want to be lurking in the shadows. Do you get that? Do you get that same choice?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I actually feel like I'm in the background and I prefer that. Of course I have to do the press conferences to, talk about our team at the beginning of the year, the end of the year. But most of my time is behind the scenes meeting with ownership, working on where this club is going, kind of long, short, medium term, like where we want to be, who we want to be. And I try, I've had my time as a player. I've had my time to be out there with, representing my country. So I try and take a role that in this club, I just want to do my work, do quality work, and have the team and the coach be the shining, example and up front and center. I try not to get in any pictures that we're doing if we win something. Like it's all about. I try and keep it all about the team.
One of the wisest things that was said to me about the role of sporting director is that commonly it's a glue in an organisation. So if you are that glue, is your strongest relationship with the owners and with the manager? Are they the key relationships for you?
So yeah, they're the first. When we need to make some changes here, I try and be lockstep with ownership in all of those changes. We have owners that are very high profile. Sometimes it's just a WhatsApp message or a text just to inform. But when we're making major decisions and things that will really affect the direction of the club, I try and make sure that we are working together. It's a collective decision, and bring the evidence of how we got to this decision. What's the story of a signing? How did it first start? What was the process to get there? What steps did we take with our scouting, with our reporting, with our watching games live, watching games on video? How did the negotiations work? What were the financials behind it? And how we feel this player will help us win. And as a player leaves and we move, what happened with that player? Why didn't it work? Or why was it a success and now it's time to move on from him because maybe a young player is coming through and we got a clear space and a pathway for that player. So yeah, there's a lot of that balancing and trying to just communicate and work collaboratively.
I'm just wondering when the noise is so loud outside of Inter Miami, and it is because the whole world's talking about you, how much it helps having an owner like David Beckham who's used to living in that noise.
Yeah, David is one of the busiest people I know. He's always in different places in the world, and it is great when we have a chance to talk about the team, get his opinion on players. When he comes in here, sometimes he'll come in for weeks, and I love it because he's out watching training. The energy in the building is really good when David's here. The team, and it's that way for when Jose and Jorge Mas are here too. That just to have owners who are involved and close with the team, it's great for players. It's great for our staff, and to be able to ask David, like, what do you see? Like, what's your opinion on these players? Because he comes in with fresh eyes when you're away, and all of a sudden you see it. And we're in it every day. So sometimes we don't see things that David will pick up right away with his experience and just being able to pick out someone. And he's done that several times where he's noticed a player and it's been really refreshing for us and to get his take on it.
He probably couldn't dribble as well as you did, but he's got a bad cross on him.
I'd love to cross like David did and score free kicks. And yeah, I mean, he still kicks the ball every once in a while. It's fun.
How big a step is it in a couple of years' time when you're going to have your own home as well? It seems to me that might be the kind of finishing piece of the jigsaw, or at least of that first phase of saying we are a proper club, we have a home, we have an identity, and here's what it is.
Yeah, we're really excited about Miami Freedom Park. Again, another commitment from our ownership. This was built, Dry Pink Stadium is a temporary stadium. It's a beautiful temporary stadium with our training ground here. The team will continue to train here in Fort Lauderdale. And then once Miami Freedom Park comes in, we'll have our own home. We'll have a place to play in Miami. And it's, when I played here in 2001, with the Miami Fusion, we played a few games down in Miami, and immediately we had 27,000, 30,000 people. People would just come and support football there. So we were really fortunate, and I think that's what it's going to be when we're down there. The stadium's going to be beautiful. It'll be a place, obviously, we'll be super proud of for the South Florida community and the fans of our club. And I think having this foundation of playing in Fort Lauderdale, we have all these fans here, and now it's about getting new fans to come in. Obviously, when Messi came here, we instantly became a global club and had millions and millions of fans around the league. But many of those are Messi fans. Can we translate those to be Inter Miami fans for the next decades?
I'm glad you mentioned him first, but I'm going to leave it for a moment and just ask you very, very quickly about the process involved as being a sporting director. In terms, I've talked about the progress you've made. Is the hardest part of your job telling a manager or a coach, that's the end of your run, as you had to do with Phil Neville, which isn't easy when Phil and David are obviously friends and known each other for a long time. But is that the hardest thing you've had to do so far into Miami?
Yeah, I had to deal with it in Seattle, so I had some experience with someone who I was very close with, and Phil and I came in together. So we worked from day one on resetting the club values together, mission, vision, where we wanted to be, the style of the club, player profiles, all of those, those long nights and meetings and traveling together. So yes, that was really difficult, and a difficult decision for myself and ownership to go through. So, I'm really thrilled for Phil. He's landed the Portland Timbers job. He's a tremendous leader. So I learned a lot working with Phil, and we're still good friends. And I know he's going to have success in the league.
And you've gone in kind of a different direction with Tata Martino. And I guess one of the assets there is he's someone who knows how to work with a sporting director. That's something that's part and parcel of his management career, isn't it? It's not like saying, who's that guy? What does he do? Well, I know exactly what he does, and he helps me, hopefully.
It's been a thrill to work with Tata. He's super collaborative. We work on all the player acquisitions, things that are happening around the team. I travel with the team on the road, so we get a lot of time together. He has experience. He's coached the 3 players we brought in from Barcelona. In his history there, he's coached national teams. He's got a wealth of experience, and he won MLS Cup with Atlanta United. So he has MLS experience, which I think was super important. Understanding the makeup of an MLS roster, having players who understand the league mixed in with international players who have come in. And now is probably the biggest challenge for him, the mix of young, homegrown, local talent, players who have played in World Cups and been some of the best players all time in their positions. It's quite a challenge for a head coach to gel all of those and get everyone playing well together. And he did it in his first month on the job. I think he was looking at the Leagues Cup when he came in to be, okay, I'm going to get to know the guys, see what we need to do, and then we'll focus on getting into the playoffs. And all of a sudden, we won this tournament in his first month. And it was 100 miles per hour from day one, a game every 3 days, and super emotional and exciting for the club. So I think it set the foundation for what's to come next year and the excitement around this club. I think we're going to have a fantastic team, and Tata's going to be at the helm.
You'll look back in years to come and think 2023, the summer of, was the transfer window of transfer windows. It was the number one. I know you did lots of amazing work at Seattle, but there's an argument to say that the 2024 kind of winter window is really important and critical if you're going to take that next step and play as champions and play as winners and win more things.
Yeah, good question. It was it was so busy during that summer window because, as I said, it was years in the making to not have designated players really and keep it open, building into the summer with the hopes of landing Leo Messi and Alba and Sergio Busquets. And then along with that, the commitment from ownership to let us bring in 3 under 22 players, this under 22 initiative we have in the league, where you bring in a player and their acquisition costs will not count against the salary cap, only their salary, and that salary hits really low. So these young under 22 players are super valuable to our roster. And we brought in 2 Argentines and a Paraguayan, and they really hit it right in stride. And it was a good balance of young energy along with some of our homegrown players, Kramashi and David Ruiz, mixing in with the veteran players the ones we already had and the ones we brought in. So it was a real balance. And when I look back now, it's crazy what we went through in one window, and just before the window, hiring a new coaching staff. So the combination of everything, it really felt like 3 years all in one. And some of the things we struggled and the suffers we had the first half of the season, it was pretty difficult, but the reward came, in the summer trophy.
And forgive me if I'm putting words into your mouth, but on the outside looking in, it seems like the pressure is to find players to give you the clean sheets to go with the goals looking forward.
Yeah, to balance the team. I think there's a way that we want to play. We want to dominate possession. We want a team that can play from the back, to spread teams out, and be lethal in our attack and create goal-scoring chances. But we need to be solid in the back. So there is a balance, and that's what we're looking for and working towards, evaluating every position. We want competition in every position, but we need depth in our roster, because next year we're going to have 4 or 5 competitions we're competing in at the same time. And you need to have players, and you need to have players in the bottom of your roster who are ready to come in and play and contribute in a positive way. So, leading into this last summer in 23, we were thin, and we were playing, we had six academy products in the starting 11 at one point. And I think, that for a player's development, when there's too many together, it can slow the development. I think when you're able to sprinkle some young players in with veterans, that really helps them grow.
I'm just wondering, when you think about the CONCACAF Champions Cup and how important it might be for the football club, how important your preseason is, that it's useful as well as being something of a roadshow.
Yeah, preseason will be fun for us. We have the dates that we want to play. We're working with our front office to figure out where those games will be, who we will play. But it's a collaboration between the soccer operations and the business side. But we will also have time to prepare here in market where we can really focus. I think it's an opportunity for Tata and his staff to spend some real time working on the way we want to play. And we didn't really have that from when he came in. It was a game every 3 days, really consistent for three months. And now we're going to have a full preseason, 6-7 weeks where we can prepare for a season, prepare for multiple competitions at the same time.
And you go into the round of 16 of that competition, don't you, on the Champions Cup?
Yeah, that was winning Leagues Cup. It was the one trophy where you could skip the first round. So, it gives us a little bit of a breather to get our team ready.
There's a lot of traveling involved, isn't there? Bearing in mind how big
there
CONCACAF is.
Yeah, we're fortunate in that, it's Central America, it's Mexico, it's the Caribbean, and North America. And, being in Miami, we're at a pretty good place if we're going to play in Mexico or Costa Rica or El Salvador. You pick the country, we're in a good location for that. But, if we have a league game up in Seattle or Vancouver, or, some places where it's a long flight, that can be taxing on a team if it's the Saturday fixture date.
Have you got to a stage now, because you've won something, because Messi's there, because Busquets and Alba are there, that people are ringing you more than you're ringing them when it comes to recruitment, that everyone wants to come to Miami?
We are. We're, to have a chance to play with the best player in the world of all time. As a player, those are moments, I remember the games where I played against a great player. You remember those as a player. And to have a teammate like that is something that players are really wanting to do. So it really helps our recruitment, not only with the team, but the staff. Just being around the club with these guys is something that people want to be part of. In saying that, there's pressure to get results and perform. And, Everything around the team has to be high performing, and that's our focus: is how can we be high performing in every department at the club.
Let's talk Leo Messi directly then. How difficult or easy was the cloak and dagger stuff? Bearing in mind, I assume you got the job and knew that there was a chance 2 years down the line that Leo Messi might be a player that you're working with.
Yeah, our club, I mean, since Inter Miami started, the club is an ambitious club, and it's always been connected with big players wanting to come. And, obviously David Beckham knows players all over the world, and he's one of our owners. And so those conversations happen naturally. But Messi's one of those that it doesn't get any bigger. If you want to bring a player, the best player in the world, it doesn't get any bigger than Messi. So, yeah, I mean, that was a focus of our ownership group for a really long time. And it was a lot of, well, I'd say years of work to get to the point of bringing him in. And we're just fortunate the way everything played out and worked out, that we were able to land him. And then along with that, to add, Sergio, to add Jordi in. And, I think there is future years. We're going to have other players who either want to be teammates or want to be part of this club. And that's why I think it's important to be, to be a club that is humble in what we do, but wants to win and aspires to win. And, we have fans who are football knowledgeable fans and understand the game, and they want to see the game played in a certain way.
Are you one of those people who deals very easily with having a poker face and saying nothing? Because if I knew that I was involved in getting Leo Messi back to my football club, I would be busting to tell at least somebody.
Yeah, we, yeah, those conversations it's important to, so many things can happen in a player signing that I think with every signing at our club, it's very important that we make sure we're working on everything, because I've been part of many deals that have fallen apart. And sometimes you look back and you say, I'm glad that deal fell apart because it wouldn't have worked out. Or you're looking at the player just crushing it at another team and doing fantastic, and you wish he was wearing your uniform. So I do think being able to protect the work we do, we have 7 steps that we take in our recruitment, and making sure in every part of that process we're doing our work and we're keeping it internal inside the club.
Has he surprised you in the way he's kind of taken to it? We know about the ability on the pitch. That that comes, you take that as read. But it seems to me the package that's come with it has maybe changed some people's focus and changed some people's opinions of Leo Messi, simply because he seems to have embraced the entire club rather than just playing for Inter Miami.
Yeah, as you said, he's been the best player in the world, and he's been able to produce at such a high level consistently year after year. You see that from the outside. It's different when you see him in the inside. He is an incredible leader. He cares about everyone who's working around the team. He cares about his teammates. And it doesn't matter at the club who it is. He treats them like they're as important as the head coach. Like you can really see how he cares for anyone who's around the team. And that to me it's so, I was so impressed by how he carried himself, but how he cared for people, and how he leads the team. You can obviously he's captain of the teams he's played for, and you can see why. It isn't just that he's the best player; it's what he brings to the group and what he brings every single day. And his attention to detail. He will look at things like, how the other goalkeeper, where he is on set pieces in other games, what tendencies he has. Because I think, my impression is when he gets in those moments, if it's one little thing that can make the difference of him scoring and helping us win a game, he's going to do it. He's ultra competitive. And he really wants a high standard here, but the way he carries himself and does it has been, like I said, a dream DP.
And especially when, obviously he can play off the cuff because he can do that because he's the greatest player that many people have ever seen. But you're talking about him maybe being part of a process now where you've got a style of play, which sounds even more frightening, bearing in mind you might actually use him in a targeted way rather than say, right, do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, Leo's been, he's been at such a high level, but every single team has tried to figure out how to play against him. And, the teams have tried to get physical with him. Teams have tried to man mark him. Like, you've seen it in everywhere he plays. It doesn't really work. Like he finds ways to get out of or to bring relevance to a game or impact to a game in moments. And the way he reads players, the way he works with players, the messages he brings to our young players, in just sharing experiences and how to be more impactful for other players and other teammates to impact games. And I think that plays into how he can impact games. Like, he sees that it's hand in hand. It isn't just, hey, give me the ball and I'm just going to beat my three guys and set someone up. It is a collaboration with everyone around him. And as I said, he is also figuring out how we can be an elite club all the way through the club. His investment in Inter Miami, you can feel. It isn't just here to come here and be with his family and have some years to just ride it out. He's really invested.
I talked about the noise surrounding the club and how David Beckham deals with it, and it's an asset knowing how that noise works. I'm in massive admiration of someone like Messi, who's had noise throughout his career and yet has the peace of mind to be able to perform within that cauldron. Not everyone can do that, can they?
Yeah, I think he's been used to that. It's probably been an adjustment for all of the team around him and his young teammates, who all of a sudden our road trips have changed, hotels have changed, protocols have changed. We are acting in our travel and the daily activities that no other team in MLS is having to deal with. Maybe the LA Galaxy, when David arrived to the league, everything changed there for that club. But I think now where the league is compared to then has really evolved. And so I would say it's that on steroids. And, the things we deal with are different, just security around the team. So I think trying to do everything we can around him to keep, when he comes in the building, he's here to work. He's here to train. There's no distractions outside of what he deals with his teammates and the coaching staff, and to protect the environment around all of our players and what they deal with. And of course, there's going to be differences. Police escorts on the way to the games, the way we go in and out of hotels, all of that experience has changed and is really blown up, and the spotlight and microscope is on the team. But I think so far it's been managed pretty good. And there's always something where we're reacting to things while, that are happening behind the scenes.
Is it nice to have that as part of your kind of learning curve? Because there's an argument to say once you've dealt with someone like Messi, then you can probably deal with anyone. I'm not saying he's problematic, but I'm talking about the scale of the person that's playing for your team.
Yeah. It's like getting a master's degree every single day here. Things we are dealing with that, as I said, no other team in the league is dealing with. And I actually take it from my time I got to the club in the preparation to prepare a roster for this summer window, and working so closely with ownership in this dream becoming reality, and it becoming reality, and how we are going to transform this club and continue to transform it. It has been exciting every day. It's just such a good feeling to come into this building, come into work every day, and not knowing what we're gonna deal with that day, and just the quality of everyone that is in this building.
What's your take on the club being kind of a pivotal part of rolling the carpet out for the World Cup? Because whether you like it or not, I think you are going to be the trailblazers for what will perhaps be the biggest and best World Cup that we've ever seen.
I'm really excited to see the World Cup come back to the U.S. and it's U.S., Canada, Mexico, but to have it come back to North America, 94 was such an important part of my upbringing. I was in my low 20s and just I saw the impact of hosting the World Cup, and it really launched our league. So now we're at a point where this league continues to improve. Will we be the top league in the world one day? I don't know about that, but we will be among the top 5-6 leagues in the world. And I think it will be a league of choice for players who are in a prime of their career. And I think it will only continue to grow as we get closer to the 26 World Cup. And, I could see many players following that World Cup saying, hey, I want to stay here and play. And I think this league is at a point too where the infrastructure and the support to have big clubs in our league is there. And maybe it wasn't there at the beginning in 96 because it was a brand new league and launched from nothing. Around the world, you have clubs that have been around for hundreds of years. And, our league is, 30 some years old. It's not an old league. It's all brand new, but it's come so far in that short period of time to where we are today.
And extending that network, what's it like to have people you can lean on who are fellow sporting directors? Because it seems that no matter where you look in every league or every club, there is someone doing something similar if they're not doing that role completely.
Yeah, James, I think this league is really unique compared to other leagues around the world in that it is a single entity league, and the communication between sporting directors is really close. We're all on a WhatsApp together, talking about things in the league, how the league's trying to improve and changes that are happening in the league. You don't see that in any other league in the world. So I really feel, we have meetings next week where we all come in together with the league office and we discuss possible changes, talk about ideas. It gives us a chance to talk about players with other general managers, sporting directors. And I think those meetings are really important to share best practices, to get an idea of what's out there in the market, what the value of the players on our roster are, whether there's deals to be had. I think it's a really unique league in that way. And there's a lot of new sporting directors coming from all over the world into our league. And, some of us, I've been here since the very beginning. And so there's an understanding of how things work here. And it's a pretty big learning curve to come in and start to work in the system that we have here. So, I try and share all my experiences and what I've gone through at different clubs and signing different players.
That lack of suspicion is a really rare thing. Is it because so much of what you do is public in terms of knowing what rosters are worth and players are worth and that being kind of published? Or is it because everyone is heading in the same direction to make the league better? Or is it a combination of those things?
I would say it's a combination. Yeah, it is different that the salaries are published for the players. So, that is one thing we have to manage within our clubs and with our players. But I do think, there is a collaboration in that we're all competing and we're all working for our jobs, and having success and winning will keep your job. But at the same time, we know that, we're trying to grow this league and we want to be a top league and we want to do everything we can. So, I ask a lot of questions of sporting directors who are coming from different leagues around the world because I want to learn about their market and their experiences that they had, because we're always dealing with players come from all over the world, and we're dealing with, with agents and clubs from markets that they've come from. So you can learn a lot about how a club works and maybe how you negotiate with a club based on their experiences in dealing with the president and the leaders of individual clubs.
Final question. I said this would be about you, and it's going to be about you with the final question. Everyone says that there's nothing like playing, but your eyes light up when you talk about what you do as a job now. Now, that might be the Messi effect. I don't know. But you seem as passionate as a sporting director as you were perhaps as a player.
Sometimes I think about that everything I had done as a player was leading me into where I am today and what I'm doing. So yes, I lean back on a lot of those experiences. And you mentioned it when I'm talking with a player, when I have to cut a player, I've sat on that side of the table. You can give the same message in a respectful way. than maybe some of the messages I got when I was a player. So, you're dealing with people who have families, have to go home and tell them, hey, I'm moving next week. You guys can catch up. We can sell the house. Like there's a lot to it when you're dealing with people's lives and their livelihood. So I lean on that a lot. But I do love what I do. And I love being part of where a club is going and everything that goes into supporting teams at every level, from our 11-year-old, 12-year-old players and their development and their pathway, not only as soccer players, but as people, as hopefully fans of our club forever, all the way through the first team and trying to win everything we're competing in.
Chris, look, thank you for your wisdom, your knowledge, and most of all your time when you're such a busy time in preparing for what could be the club's most successful season so far. A pleasure to see you and a pleasure to talk to you. That's Chris Henderson at the epicenter of the club that everyone in the world wants to talk about. Keep it posted here. Look out for all your platforms for the next episode of the VSI Sporting Directors podcast. It's coming soon.